Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to have this amazing guest on. Her name is Carrie Corum. She's the founder and manager of a really cool website called Deliciously Organic, and she's a huge fountain of knowledge, particularly in as it relates to thyroid and other things that she herself has dealt with. I've known Carrie for a long time. Looks like she's already ready to go on. Thank you, Carrie. You're so organized. And yeah, we're going to have Carrie on. We're going to talk about all things thyroid, nervous system, and related issues.
Hey,
Hello, Carrie.
how are you?
Wow, it's so wonderful to see
Yeah,
you.
you too. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it's funny. This whole time I had no idea that you were down there in Texas.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I moved out here like 5 years ago from Florida.
Okay, yeah, right. Originally you were in
Yes.
Florida. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
I'm ex
amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
so how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. I'm excited for the cooler weather. So that's, in Texas, right? It's just starting to cool off, so it's nice.
Yeah, well, at least your house is not drowned right
I
now, like so many
know.
people in Florida.
I know.
So
And
our
Georgia
heart,
and North Carolina and
yeah,
oh,
all of that. Our
horrible.
heart goes out to everybody who's
Mhm.
going through issues there. I know how that is. I'm good friends with Dr. John Lawrence. He's a functional chiropractic neurologist based in Sarasota, and his whole place got
Mhm.
flooded, and everybody else. So
Mhm.
that is nice about Texas, especially in the middle of Texas, kind of like here in Missouri. Well, we have hurricanes, or excuse me, we have tornadoes
Tornadoes.
sometimes, but
Yeah,
it doesn't seem to be as frequent as what they're dealing with in Florida.
I know. Yeah, yeah. It's really sad.
So
But I'm
yeah,
excited to talk with you today.
yeah. So let's start out. So it's going to be on both of our Instagrams. So let's start
Hmm.
out by introducing you.
Yeah.
Your name's Carrie Corum,
Hmm.
and you have Deliciously Organic.
Yes.
That's the website. Give us
Yes.
the actual URL, but also give us your background and your interest in this. Like, you
Hmm.
have a really interesting health journey, and I think it would
Hmm.
be lovely for everybody to hear that. So let's start out with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. My site is deliciouslyorganic.net. So you can find me there. My journey, gosh, it started over 20 years ago. When my second daughter was born, I started having chronic migraines and went to a
Mm.
neurologist, several doctors. I was on 3 daily meds. They wanted to put me on a fourth because even with 3 daily meds, I was getting them 3 to 4 times a week. I'd also struggled
Mm.
with eczema and IBS for about a decade. So when the doctor wanted to put me on another medication, I just said, no, I can't. And I didn't know, I cooked everything homemade, right? But I didn't know anything about real food, anything like that. Plus, it was like 22 years ago, right? So that wasn't really a thing quite yet. And so I went home, called a friend who I knew ate healthy because she ground her own grain. And I remember thinking,
Wow.
that's
Okay.
weird. She and I are dear, dear friends to this day. We laugh about it because it is kind of funny. Called her up and said, do you think that my migraines could have anything to do, or my food could have anything to do with my migraines? She said 100%. She brought me over a stack of books. The first two books I started with were Nourishing Traditions and what's that one by Jordan Rubin? He had Crohn's disease, The Maker's Diet.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I started just at first switching all my food to organic. That's all I did. I was still eating white flour, white sugar, all of that. I got off of my medications within about 2 months. My migraines just disappeared. My IBS cleared and my eczema cleared.
Now wait a second. So and the functional change was getting rid of sugar and
No, all I did was switch to organic
oh,
food.
all excuse me, all
That's
you did was
it.
switch to organic.
That's
Whoa.
all I did. So for me, obviously, I had a toxic overload.
Yeah.
So by pulling
Yeah.
back on just like fruits and vegetables and dairy and stuff like that, got rid of that. So that's when I started Deliciously Organic. And then a few years into that, I had a large amalgam filling removed. So it was in a back molar. It
Mm.
filled most of the molar up. So most people don't know, and I didn't know at the time, that amalgam is 50% mercury.
Yeah.
And you need to go to a dentist who's properly trained.
A
Unfortunately,
biological dentist. Yeah.
biological, yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't go to a dentist who was properly trained. It was a really long appointment. And as soon as I sat up from the chair, I turned to my dentist and I said, something's wrong with me. I don't feel good. And
Mm.
he was like, oh no, just go home. You're going to be fine. And I was in bed for a week. And then after that, I kind of regained a little bit of energy, but I remember thinking, like, why did I take this filling so hard? This is super weird, you know? And then within about 2 months, my health just like crashed. I became sensitive to every food. I would eat lettuce, I'd break out into hives. I'd eat meat, I'd break out into hives. And my hives, unfortunately, were from my neck up. So they covered my entire face. All of my skin peeled off twice a day. I was red, inflamed. I literally had to just drop everything I was doing because I was in
Wow.
pain all the time. So I would get my girls off to school and then I would just lay on the couch with ice packs on my face. And my hair was falling out. Obviously, I was a little depressed, right? Couldn't sleep. And the thing that was so frustrating for me was that I couldn't find a doctor who would take me seriously.
Yeah.
And they kept telling me, oh, you have dry skin. And they'd hand me steroid cream and tell me to go home. And I'm like, I don't have dry skin. Like, there's literally something wrong. And so 9 months in, found a doctor who listened. They ran allergy testing on everything. All of it came back negative. And so, of course, this allergist was like, well, that's weird. You know, you're reacting to everything. So then she tested me for Hashimoto's, which is thyroid autoimmunity. And I was diagnosed with that. So I walked away from that appointment actually kind of excited because at least I knew there was something that I could tackle. So I called my friend again, the one that ground the grain, called her. This is like 8 years later, and
You're a
said,
real
okay,
doctor.
yeah, exactly. And I just was like, what am I going to do? Because my doctor, I should add this, they did offer me T4 medication, Synthroid. And I was already coming from the perspective that food, lifestyle, all these things can heal the body. So I asked him, hey, how is this going to heal my thyroid? And he said, no, 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 that's not how this works. Your thyroid's going to stop working and you're going to be on meds the rest of your life.
Mm.
And so I was like, huh, okay. But I was really glad that he was honest with me and shared that with me. Because then I was like, well, I was like, that I don't want to do that. So called my friend and said, what am I going to do? Because these meds are going to work. And she said, well, my sister is a holistic nutritionist. She's out in California. I already booked an appointment for you. So started working with Kim Schutte. She unfortunately passed away about 6 years ago, but
Mm.
she became a dear friend. She walked me through reversing my Hashimoto's. I can eat all the foods now. I'm fine. I haven't had hives in, oh, 13 years, something like that. I mean, that stuff never came back. It was a very, very long journey, like very long, very hard, but I was so determined to heal because I didn't want to stay in that space and live that way for the rest of my life. So she mentored me. I went back to school, became a functional nutritionist, joined her practice, and then like I said, she passed away, and then when I moved out to Texas, started my own practice. So now I have a practice here in Dallas,
Wow,
and
wonderful. And what's the
yeah,
name of the
yeah.
practice?
I don't even have, I mean, deliciously organic, right? I just
Okay.
put it under the same umbrella. But people usually just like, I want to see Carrie Gorham, right? So, and of course, my niche is thyroid disease, autoimmunity, and things like that. So that's what brought me here. And of course, I've been writing my site the whole way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so interesting. It's so inspirational. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I want to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
I also so last year the only dental issue I've ever had is I had this root canal in my tooth number
Mm-hmm.
19. And thankfully, I was much later in life realized the importance of biological dentistry, and I had it removed by a biological oral surgeon in Dallas, actually.
Oh, okay.
One of the most famous guys in the
Dr.
world, apparently,
Fields?
Dr. Ted
Ah,
Fields. Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
I know Dr.
he's
Fields.
so
Yes.
amazing,
He's great.
right?
He's amazing.
He helped like legalize the non-metallic
The
implants. You
ceramic.
know
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ceramic like in 2013 or whatever 2008. So he's also an artist. So I was really grateful and blessed to have connected with him. He was actually recommended to me at an ozone conference in
Oh,
Dallas as well, Dr. Schallenberger's
okay.
conference. So
Okay.
anyway, he took it out so slowly. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't use any grinders. He
Mm-hmm.
and he slowly took the crown off the top to make sure there was no amalgam,
Yeah.
or to see if there was amalgam underneath. Thankfully, there was no amalgam. But just to describe to everybody, like when you take out stuff that might be toxic in your mouth and you're doing like deep dental repair, you don't want to grind anything
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want to make any particulate matter that you can then absorb. So he had these little wedges and chiseled, and he slowly broke it
Wow.
out, and at the end of it he showed me all like 10 pieces laid out to show me it was all there.
Yeah.
And uh and so it's so cool that you know about biological dentistry and you're bringing it up. It's such an important subject.
Mm-hmm.
Most dentists are not doing this,
Mm-hmm.
but those who are such a godsend. They're
Yes.
dealing with
Yes.
issues and helping us avoid essentially one of the worst things that can happen, which is
Mm-hmm.
what happened to you,
Yeah.
where if we have an amalgam filling and we're not careful about taking that out, that 50% mercury leads to uh, can
Mm-hmm.
lead to a significant mercury poisoning. And
Yes.
all of the symptoms that you described are symptoms of mercury poisoning,
Mm-hmm.
basically like everything, the overreactive immune system, the hair
Mm-hmm.
loss, the
Mm-hmm.
just, the neuropsychiatric symptoms. So
Yes.
uh, it's such an important subject. So those of
Yeah.
you out there who first of all, yeah, if you have mercury amalgam fillings, this can be easily determined without like damaging the tooth or anything, or removing
Mm-hmm.
anything. And if you do have it, mercury is a very soft metal. So
Yes.
every time we bite down, when we have a
Mm-hmm.
mercury filling, we actually release a little bit of mercury into our
Mm-hmm.
body.
Yes.
And sometimes if they go really deep down in the filling, down to like our bone muscle, our bone tissue,
Mm-hmm.
it can also be just constantly leaching into the body. So
Yes.
um, it's uh, it's mercury toxicity is an age old problem. It's used basically in medicine or in dentistry because it's a soft, easy to work metal.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
practical benefit to the dentist is really a detriment to the body. So
Mm-hmm.
there are totally mercury free, like fluoride free alternatives, ceramic
Yes.
basically in all of them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm so glad that we get to talk about this and highlight this because I've also, I meet lots of people, and many of them had this similar story where they've had like these nagging health issues. They started to eat organic, they're doing detox,
Yes.
and it becomes a slippery issue that, and then they're like, oh, it's only when I removed all the amalgam from my mouth did I
Mm-hmm.
have like
Mm-hmm.
a huge recovery. When you have amalgam in your mouth, you have this very toxic metal mercury that's constantly being absorbed by your body, and
Yeah.
it's well understood to be one of the most toxic things
Mm-hmm.
out there.
Mm-hmm. And another layer of that, well, first of all, I talk to every client about what's going on in their mouth
Yeah,
because most practitioners don't even talk to them about it. And one thing that's really interesting is that when you have mercury in your mouth, a lot of times your body is going to overgrow candida as a defense mechanism. So people will have candida, they'll go to a functional practitioner, and the practitioner's like, oh, you have candida, and they keep going on these protocols and
yeah,
protocols, and they can't pick the candida because they still have the amalgam in their mouth. So if you have candida,
interesting.
you definitely have to take a look at that. And then also with those heavy metals in your mouth, with the Wi-Fi radiation, that can like act as like an antenna and make you feel anxious, all sorts of
Really?
things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. This is fascinating. So the teeth, there's tooth meridians,
Yes.
and each tooth is like
Yes.
connected to a body. You can look this up
Yes.
online, like the tooth meridian
Yeah.
chart or whatever. So I experienced this with my tooth. So it's tooth number 19 that is associated with the big toe,
Mm.
among other things, and also
Okay.
organs. But I had this little spot of eczema on the top
Mhm.
of my big toe since pretty
That wouldn't go away.
pretty much the exact time I got that root canal. And yeah, it didn't really, I mean, if I look at it now, it's like pretty much totally gone. That was there for like 18 years, this whole time I had this root canal. So it's very
Wow.
interesting what you said. So when we have a problem in our mouth, in the health of our mouth, we can
Mhm.
look at this meridian chart and understand maybe why we're having a problem with like our small intestine or some other thing. They're related to each other. And then also, like you said, uh, when you have this poison in your mouth, this mercury or something like that, it's creating or it's leading indirectly or directly to um, proliferation of microbes in other areas of the body. There's also people who have like foot fungus,
Yep.
and they clean up their mouth,
Yep.
and those peripheral tissue issues like resolve.
Yes. Because usually foot fungus is correlated to candida overgrowth in the body that's then gone
Mm,
down into
yeah.
the nose. Yeah.
So yeah, and then one more thing that I found out, it's like, okay, so we talked about mercury. What about metallic? What about like gold and silver
Mm.
versus let's just say gold, because that's
Yeah.
there's no mercury in that. A gold versus a ceramic filling. So our teeth have voltages.
Yep.
It's actually like 8 volts or 8 millivolts, excuse me, not 8 volts, 8 millivolts per tooth. And when you bite and you connect the bottom teeth to the top teeth, you complete that circuit,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a natural part of the body's electromagnetism that is supposed to be create, it's supposed to exist in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a metal filling, Dr. Ted Fields taught me about this. When you have a metal filling, you can actually, there can be a galvanic circuit
Yes.
connection that between your metal filling and your metal
Yep.
earring, and and then it just
And
starts to
then you're like,
distort
whoa,
the
yes.
like all this
Yeah.
stuff. You're like, what is going on? So those of you who are thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna take care of my amalgams, consider highly like going all metal free, going ceramic,
Mm-hmm.
even even with the challenges it presents, because our bodies are, and maybe we'll talk about this a little bit. We're much more electromagnetic than anything else. If we
100%.
go deep
Yeah.
down, fundamentally, it's
Yeah.
all electricity and voltages and stuff,
Yes.
and the mouth is so determinate in the health of the body. So not having any metal in our mouths is like ideal.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and the tooth that I had that amalgam filling removed, it's connected to the thyroid.
Oh, of
Yeah, so I had
course.
an overload of the mercury and stuff in my thyroid
Mm.
tissues, right? And so then my body's like, oh my gosh, let's attack the thyroid tissues. So it makes sense why my body did that at the time, you know? So,
Right, and I'd love to actually pick that apart what you just said, because I think, oh, and I like your opinion on this. Maybe you have a
mhm.
different opinion. Um, it's we use this word autoimmune a lot, as if the body would ever attack itself. And
Oh,
I think there's just, this is my personal opinion. You can respond. Like, I think it's a misrepresentation of what's going on. I think the body's trying to attack poisons,
yeah.
and our own body and the tissues we have, for you, like your thyroid, is kind of maybe collateral damage in a sense, but the body would never attack itself. It's just poisoned, and that's really what's going on with autoimmune.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yes, I think that the body, anytime there's autoimmune, it's doing it for a reason, right? So for some people, it is toxins. I was reading the other day, a practitioner was talking about how during the potato famine in Ireland, a lot of people developed Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, right?
Mm,
Well, that was the body's way of trying to slow them down because they were in a famine, right? So that wasn't a toxin, but they didn't
mm.
have a lot of food. And so when the body is presenting with autoimmunity, it's an immune system issue. And you got to look at the immune system and go, why is this happening? You know, and sometimes it can just be from stressors, and your adrenals are so taxed. You've got nutrient deficiencies. Now you have gut issues. And so this is lowering the immune system, and your body's like, okay, like we gotta, basically it's trying to keep you safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. For me, it goes back to what I feel is the core and the root cause of all disease.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Dr. Ed Group, actually, of Global Healing.
Mm-hmm.
Really love that guy. So he says the root cause of disease is nothing more than disharmony in the internal and external environment, like
Totally.
fundamentally. And
Totally.
so in this case, what you just said is really important. It's not just about our internal environment and our toxins in our body and the state of being in the body. It's what is the environment we're
Mm-hmm.
in? What are the stressors in the environment,
Mm-hmm.
and how are we responding to that, and putting some awareness in that too. It's not enough to just eat super clean and use sauna every day, even though it's really
It's
helpful,
great. Yeah.
like you don't want a toxic environment around you, and sort of to be figuring all those things out. And there's in the modern world, there's so many, it's
Yes.
such a challenge.
Yes. And those toxins could even be toxic relationships, right? Trauma that we haven't dealt with, different things like that. Just, how we're feeling day to day. Are we overscheduling ourselves? Those types of things. People don't really realize that that also comes into play. And it's the hardest part to change, you know,
Yeah,
but, but like you can, I always tell my clients this at the end of every appointment, you can eat the perfect diet, you can take all these supplements, but if you don't take steps to reduce your stressors and change your lifestyle, it's going to be really hard to see change. So I let them know that up front. And then
hmm
we start at every appointment. Yes, we're going through their food, their supplementation, gentle drainage or detox if we need it, red light, sauna, all that. But I'll also be asking them like, how's your schedule right now? Do you ever sit down and rest during the day? Do you go outside? Are there stressors that you don't need to tell me about, but maybe you need to talk to a counselor about, things like that, so we can hit all of the points to help them get better. Because I had to do that, you know? So I had to walk through it. And it was a really good experience for me because then I can have a lot of empathy and compassion for people and then help hold their hand and walk alongside them as they're walking through stuff.
Wow, yeah, so beautiful. So I would like to get into some of those lifestyle things because I think a lot of people would love to hear about some of the things that have worked for you. Before that, though, ML Gerald has a quick question about the dentistry. So he says, I do go to a biological dentist, but to start removing my fillings is expensive,
Yeah.
and I'm afraid it would cause health issues. I'm sorry. So do you want to take this one or? Yeah,
Sure.
go
Yeah.
for it.
I 100% understand the cost. Totally. And earlier I was going to say, and I didn't because we moved on to another topic, but I would have gladly paid $1,000, $1,500, whatever it was, for that one tooth to have it properly removed, than have gone through over 5 years. And I probably spent, I mean, close to $50,000 getting well again. So there's the financial piece of it. So I get that, and maybe your dentist has a payment plan, but those types of things are worth it in the long run. The other side is my body healthy enough? Some of the key things, now I'm not a dentist, but as a nutritional therapist, I would say some key things that you'd want to get just nailed down so that you know that your body could walk through the process well is, are you sleeping, right? How's your digestion? Are you having like 1 to 2 bowel movements a day? Not having like heartburn, gas, indigestion, things like that? Is your stress in check? Right? And you're getting outside and moving your body. I mean, those are just very basic. Well, I guess the diet too. Let's be eating a healthy diet.
Yeah.
But if you get those things in check, then those are really big foundations. So that then if you go through a cavity removal or amalgam filling removal, you can walk through that a lot better. And a biological dentist is going to give you a plan.
Mhm.
They're going to tell you like, hey, these are the things you need to do, or hey, wait, maybe you're not really ready, let's give you a couple of months, and then when you're a little stronger you can. So they should be able to guide you through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. There's you can research this online. There's certain supplementation protocols that are recommended. When
I
you
have one on my
do.
site. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful,
Mhm.
wonderful. We'll reference that definitely in the comments. And
Yeah.
also, whether you're preparing to remove an amalgam filling or you're in the process of removing it or post, it can be incredibly helpful to be cleansing. And obviously, sauna space and doing sauna is
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
You can also take binders. There's natural binders, bentonite clay, ozonated charcoal, things like that to
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
work really effectively to cleanse the body as quickly as possible within a precautionary like range.
Mhm.
There's also many biological dentists who use ozone therapy, not
Mhm.
just ozone therapy to like in for the dental procedure, but I know some biological dentists who they do ozone IVs like
Mhm.
before and after, and they have like a whole protocol. So there's many ways that you can support and like make this process like as smooth as possible and to shorten your recovery time as much as possible. And there's a lot of great resources out there, and we'll definitely link to yours.
Definitely.
Okay, we're not going to talk too much more about the dentist stuff, but with one more comment really quick. So uh, Sue Skiegel asks, how did you find it? How did you find a biological dentist? I'm looking for a biodentist too. I did my fillings years ago. I need caps. I need filling. Thank you. So I'll ask you what your response is, but first I'll say that there's an organization called the uh,
Yep.
let me say this right. IAMOT. Did I say it right?
IAOMT.
IAOMT.
.org.
And it's basically
Mhm.
IAOMT, and it's a nonprofit organization that is a biodentistry
Mhm.
organization. They have conferences every year. I've been to several of the conferences, and they have listings of biological dentists, and then you can.
Mhm.
And sometimes you need to ask around. Definitely in the larger cities, there's more availability. In
Yes.
Dallas, there are some amazing biological dentists and biological oral surgeons. There's actually a pediatric biological dentist in the Frisco area,
Mm,
which is North Dallas, and
nice.
those are really hard to find. But
Very, yeah.
yeah, you just need to do some research and you'll get there. They're definitely available, and if I was you, I definitely wouldn't compromise.
And if you have to drive a couple hours, drive a couple hours. I mean, the dentist that when I lived in Florida, the closest one was Dr. Pfister in Alabama, and I drove 2 hours each way because after my experience, I personally won't go to a conventional dentist
Yeah,
anymore. I just won't.
same.
I won't
My
take my
dentist.
chances.
I'm the same. My dentists are in Dallas, and I currently am based in Missouri. I travel a lot, but yeah, I always like route
Yep.
myself so I can go through there when I need to. It's so worth it. So you'll be able to find one even if you have to travel a little bit. Okay, so let's move forward. So let's talk about some lifestyle stuff. Looks like EMFs are coming up in the comments quite a bit. So
Mhm.
one person asking, what are your thoughts on an electric car, and how horrible they are. Let's talk about EMFs a little bit. So, what's your experience with EMF? Did that ever come up in your healing journey, like any kind of EMF stressors, or is this something? Do you have any things that you're doing to like protect yourself and from
Yeah,
EMFs?
yeah. I mean, I learned about that later, but like I had Brian Hoyer's team, Shielded Healing, come to my house and do uh not an inspection. I can't remember what they call it, but they check all the levels in the
Yeah,
house and stuff like
yeah,
that. So some real one thing I learned from him that I thought was really big is we're all afraid of these cell phone towers and stuff, but a lot of the things that are damaging to our body are actually coming from inside our home, and there are things that we can do about it. And I think that's really empowering because I
amazing.
think that a lot of us feel afraid, right? And we can know that in our homes, there are simple things we can do. So I don't have one where I can easily access it, but I have like those plugs with the little remote, the old school remote that I plug in like my Wi-Fi and or I plug this into the wall and then I plug the router into the wall, or I plug my lamp or plug that thing in the wall and the lamps. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So you
And
can
then
kind of remotely turn it off with the little trigger.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I have my printer, the lamps in my room, because I learned that you don't want to have anything plugged in your room while you're sleeping. That's an easy thing that we can all do, right? The Wi Fi, even if you're in an apartment building, still turning off the Wi Fi in your own apartment,
boom.
that's going to be a step, right? And so I have the little remote next to my bed, and I just click off, 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 off on all of them, and then they're done. And it's simple. Like a set of 5 of those costs, I think, $25. And I always get asked, but doesn't the remote emit EMFs? It's like one of those old school remotes, like on the old TVs where if you push it, there will be a little signal, but outside of that, it's not emitting anything.
Right. The issue with the EMFs is they're constantly emitting wattage that we're absorbing. These little triggers,
Yes.
it's just momentary. So having it off is amazing. Yeah. And some routers you can actually put on a time schedule. Like at my house, I have a
Yeah.
little bit fancier router, and you can program it. So pretty much every night at like 9:30 or 10, it shuts off.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad you brought that up about the bedroom. That's what's cool about our products, particularly our glow. So in my bedroom, I only have the glow lights, on the
Mhm.
nightstands, and they're shielded. So it's okay to have something plugged in if it's a shielded
That's a good
product.
point. Yeah, yeah.
However, that's pretty rare, obviously. So yeah, it's something you don't think about, like your alarm clock maybe plugged in
Mhm.
right on your bedside, and because it's on, it's drawing a ton of voltage on, like into your bed, into your sleep space, and the EMFs are basically, essentially they stress out our they cause aging, they cause oxidative
Mhm.
stress. It's every tissue of the body. They mess up with our sleep, and they, as they continue to damage us, it leads to dysfunction that
Mhm.
can
Mhm.
be very problematic. So these practical tips at home to like lower your lower exposure are super super easy to do and super important. I totally agree with you. It's not just our Wi-Fi. Put your phone into full airplane mode
Yes.
at night. Don't just leave it in your living room. Just turn it
Yes.
completely off. And any other devices you have, which can be a challenge nowadays, where people have tons of stuff, but it is what it is. It's so easy to reduce your risk
Yeah.
in those things.
Yeah. No, I agree. And even if you take one small step to do that, that's a step in the right direction. I think sometimes we get overwhelmed thinking I have to do all of it and I have to, I have to sleep in a shielded room and I have to do all these things. And those are great. They're all great. And we all want to do things perfectly, but a lot of times we just can't. So even a small step is going to be helpful for the body.
Yeah, and one other thing I would add that's actually really affordable upgrade in terms of EMF is you can buy organic grounding sheets made of
Mhm.
silver, and they plug in. And if you put that below your fitted sheets, you're not directly touching it. It has two purposes. It protects you from most of the electric fields in your home for the most part,
Mhm.
and also it it pulls out. It basically infuses electrons. It pulls out the positive voltage out of your body, and
Mhm.
we know that sleeping grounded improves sleep. There's a lot of
Mhm.
research on this, so that's actually something I think is a really cool, it's a really cool affordable thing that everybody can do. I personally custom made a Faraday
Yeah.
canopy,
Yeah.
kind of like what
Yeah.
Brian Hoyer of Shielded Healing offers.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
so that,
Yeah.
by the way, yeah, if you guys are interested in this, Brian Hoyer of Shielded Healing, he's an amazing
Mhm.
guy. I really love him and very knowledgeable. He does EMF home mitigation consultation pretty much worldwide. He'll travel to you. He has circuits. You can check him out on shieldedhealing.com.
Mhm.
And here we are. It's another connection between us. So
I know,
interesting.
I know, yeah. And, because I talk about the thyroid a lot, the thyroid is very sensitive to radiation, chemicals, toxins, all sorts of things. So by reducing the amount that you're exposed to, that can really help your thyroid quite a bit and your whole endocrine system, your hormones. Another thing I'll just add really quick about the EMFs that I was reading in some of my notes. I have all these spirals of notes from all the lectures I go to and stuff.
Let's hear
I was going back through one of them the other day and I was reminded that, mold is such a big topic now. I don't know a ton about it for mold mitigation and stuff like that, but EMFs cause mold to grow a lot faster in your home. So if you're dealing with mold issues, reducing your EMF exposure, turning off the Wi-Fi, those types of things in your home can be very beneficial.
Yeah, and that also applies to the microbes inside your body. So
Exactly.
when we have when we
Exactly.
have
Yes.
like
Yes.
many of us are contaminated with the not nice type of microbiomes. There's a lot of genetically engineered E. coli that we're all exposed to, genetically engineered yeast. There's
Mhm.
also just non-beneficial bacteria that can overgrow in the gut, and yeah, when they're exposed to electric fields, cell phone, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, even electricity in the home, they see that as a stress, and they replicate. They
Yes.
start to multiply a lot faster. So another great reason to minimize your exposure to EMFs is to minimize that effect inside of our bodies.
Definitely. And I love that your products are all built with EMFs in mind. Like I really, really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was mm, it was my love affair with Brian Hoyer, really, that
Mhm.
started that. So
Mhm.
he came to my booth at Paleo Effects, and he said, "It's a really nice product, but it's got some voltage issue."
That's
And
awesome.
Like initially
Right.
I was like, who are you, man? He's like, show me his credentials. It's like, whoa, you're the EMF sheriff, and I just got busted.
Basically.
And that ended up being a beautiful, turning into a beautiful relationship. And I started to develop our what was eventually our grounding mat and our silver lining product. And yeah, it is something that we've been doing now for 6 or 7 years. And as the awareness has increased in issues with EMFs, I think we're more and more validated and taking that leap really in the beginning. So it's a really cool part of our experience is in our saunas, there's a grounding mat and in our firelight sauna. So they both come with a grounding mat, and the panel itself is fully electrically and magnetically shielded. So there's no EMF that we're bringing to the situation. The grounding mat gives you the grounding therapy, and it protects you from the wired EMF, as I explained before, with the grounding sheets. And also, we have this really cool option called the silver lining, where the whole sauna is lined with this silver lining, literally, that's grounded, and it protects you from almost all of the environmental EMF. And when you go inside, it's not just about getting a break, from the EMF for a short period of time. The the quality of the therapeutic experience is really enhanced with that
Yes.
silver line. It's really quiet inside. The
Mhm.
sweating is more profound. The meditative aspect of it, it's all like, especially nowadays where it used to be that you could go somewhere and camp and you wouldn't get cell phone signal, but nowadays, even in remote areas,
Yes.
there's just EMFs everywhere. So it's something that's not going away. We've always been focusing on that, continue to enhance it, our approach to it, and we've taken an approach that we don't use any aluminum.
Mm.
We just
Mhm.
we go with silver because silver is a biological metal. We feel like that's more intentional and
Mhm.
aligned.
I like
Um,
that.
so
Mhm.
yeah, enough about EMFs. Let's. Oh, you got a question?
That was a good topic.
Yeah, it's amazing topic. Okay, do we sell the grounding mats separately? We do. Currently, they're only sized to the sauna mat
Mhm.
design, but we are looking into options there.
Mhm.
Okay, we got to. So healthy me. Can you talk about the best uses of sauna when you're dealing with chronic issues? Maybe Carrie can speak to how she used her sauna. Perfect. Okay,
That's a
so
great question.
so
Yeah.
we're getting into like what can we do to take care of our health now that we're eating organic food and maybe we've taken care of some EMFs in our home. How do
Mm-hmm.
you use your sauna and like how is I mean maybe also how is that a part of your continued recovery?
Yeah, yeah. I got my sauna from y'all. It was like at the end of my healing experience, healing journey from Hashimoto's, but I was going through a very, very stressful time in my life. Just had some awful things that were happening. And my nutritionist actually got my reverse T3 checked, and it was at 50, which is very
Can you
high, which means like my
can you explain that
cortisol.
to everybody?
Yeah, so your thyroid will make T4 and it sends most of it to your liver to get converted to free T3. Free T3 goes to every cell of your body, okay? But if our cortisol's up, if our stress is up, what will happen is instead of that T4 getting converted to, oh, there's a thumbs up. Instead of it getting converted to free T3, which is going to give you energy, it will be converted to reverse T3. So what it's the reverse T3 is like the brakes of the body. So the body's trying
Mm,
to slow you down.
mm,
So I got the sauna right when that was happening. And I just remember every day going in there, I started slow. And anyone that has any kind of chronic issue, even if you have really high cortisol, that's not, well, that can be chronic, but even if you haven't been diagnosed with something, I do recommend start just going really slow. I know we get
yeah.
excited when we get our sauna and we, a lot of times we want to overdo it, but your body will appreciate it if you go slow. So I started with, 20 minutes at a time. I rotate around because I just have one panel of lights. And so I do 5 minutes on each side. And then I gradually started going up to, 24 minutes. So that meant I did 6 minutes on each side. And then I kept going up and up and up until I got up to around like 45 minutes a session. And personally, I think it's really smart to not be on your phone. Of course, if you have the one with the Faraday, like the silver lining, like I said, your phone's not going to work which is great. That's a great feature. I have the silver lining one, so my phone won't work. So that's helpful. But even if you have the one that doesn't have the silver lining, I encourage you not to have your phone in there. And just take that time to do a lot of deep breathing or meditation or, mindfulness, like something. I a lot of times will spend that time praying, and just
Mhm.
going through different things that I want to be talking to the Lord about. And I find that is so helpful because a lot of times when we're dealing with chronic issues, we really need to take steps to calm our nervous system, right? Because the Gray's Anatomy textbook tells us that the nervous system controls and coordinates every organ and every system in the body, which is like wild. So if we can do things to help balance our nervous system, this is going to have an effect like overall in the whole health of the body. So using that time to just sit and be still. I mean, we have enough chaos in our world. And if we can take some moments, even if it's 15, 20 minutes, to just sit and be quiet and pray or meditate or whatever that looks like for you, that can, I think, really ramp up the healing effects of sauna.
Yeah, I think that's so huge. Many people look at it like, well, what am I going to do in there for 20 minutes? And yeah, maybe initially in the journey, you start out with reading a book or maybe you're listening to something, but what you highlighted is so important. We're beings, right? We're not doings. We're actually beings, and we're
Mhm.
designed to be more than
Mhm.
to do. And in the modern culture, there's conditioning and sort of memory loss, let's call it, where we've forgotten to
Yeah.
just be quiet.
Yes.
And I think too, it can, it doesn't have to be prayer meditation. I do think that's more powerful,
Mhm.
and it's a way of kind of almost actively being, but
Mhm.
still being.
Mhm.
But just starting out and just sitting there and just getting back to yourself. So those of you who are maybe challenged with this in the beginning, you can just listen to like healing frequencies. If you're in the
Yes.
what used to be called the Faraday sauna, now we call it the silver lining. You just download whatever to Spotify, put it in airplane mode, go in there, and while you're in there, you can just work on your
Yeah.
breath. Just doing
Yes.
steady breathing. You can do box breathing. You can do parasympathetic breathing.
Mhm.
These are very simple things that you can just look up and it's a phenomenal practice that really grounds you and brings you back into yourself. It calms your nervous system even more than the
Mhm.
sauna and the light therapy alone will do. And I mean, you can do so many things. You can do tapping, but then yeah, eventually you're like, wow, I'm already in here. I'm gonna do some meditation. I'm gonna do
Mhm.
some prayer, and
Mhm.
then it becomes, I think, really powerful because especially if you get the opportunity to do sauna in the morning, ideally we kind of set our intention for the day. And
Mhm.
when we're in there and we already have this time to take the time to add prayer, to add meditation, you're in this perfect environment where your
Mhm.
body's open, your soul's open, you're connected with source, and like it's a huge enhancement to this. And then you can say, I've done this. I've done my meditation for the day, and that really does build over time. It's a
Yes.
muscle, that we need to work,
Mhm.
but as we remember, as we do it more, it's much more powerful, I would say, than anything we actually do. Is
Mhm.
what are our thoughts and what are our feelings, and are we
Yes.
taking that power back and reasserting our, this infinite power we have within.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
so cool to hear. So
Mhm.
so what else? So we talked about prayer and intention.
Mhm.
Let's talk about, like, did you feel anything as you slowly used it, especially when you built up and you can handle like longer periods of time? Like, what was your
Yeah.
experience outside the sauna afterward?
Mhm. I remember having more and more energy and then just feeling more calm throughout the day. I know that's like doesn't really make sense, but I remember feeling that, and of course my skin felt great. I mean, all the sweating, the heat, the red light, like your skin just like starts to look better and better, which is a nice little bonus. But definitely the energy, and even now when I do it, I feel so much better and more grounded all throughout the day.
Mhm.
And if I have something happen during my day that I feel a little whew, I'll grab my red light and just pull it out, turn it on, and sit there in front of it. And that helps shift me back over into that parasympathetic state.
Mm, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what she's referring to, we used to call the photon. Now we call it the glow.
Oh, sorry.
Um, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's new for me too.
Yeah.
Um, So we're kind of undergoing this rebranding right now, where I realized at a point that work is not work. Work is just another place that we're being. And
Mm,
so what people call my company, I call an extension of my consciousness.
mm,
And I slowly realized this, and I was like, hey, well, if it is a part of my consciousness and to me, well, what is it? What does it stand for? And who is she? And what does she look like? And
mm.
so we've been going over this almost over a year-long process now to rebrand. Part of it's the product names. We have a new little transition website that's up. It's a little bit cool, new look and feel.
Definitely clarify that she is talking about the company, not you.
What?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So sorry, I'm just getting notes from
That's
Nina
fine.
right here. Yeah, I mean it's been this long, complicated process, and I say she as in the company, the SaunaSpace consciousness, and she's
Oh,
definitely
okay.
a she, and that's
Okay.
part of the branding is we wanted to be in the biohacking space. It's just that it's biohacking. It's very masculine. A lot of it's like
Mhm.
you're broken,
Totally.
but we're gonna fix you, and we've got the exact
Right.
supplement you need.
True.
And I'm like, no, we're just being. We're beings of light. We're unlimited, and we're. I wanted to be more balanced. I didn't want to
Mhm.
just be feminine either. I wanted
Mhm.
to have like this balanced masculine feminine
Mhm.
language, be more
Mhm.
heart centered in our
Mhm.
communication, be less
Mhm.
techy, still support with the science and stuff,
Mhm.
but talk more about the being and the experience
Mhm.
and using the language of love,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
connection to speak to people honestly and truthfully. So it's still taking time to roll out our full e-commerce, not coming out until after the holidays, but
Okay.
we have a lot of cool new stuff coming out, and our new packaging and all that stuff, and our new social media is going to start. So
That's
it's
exciting.
it's just, yeah, it's an evolution of consciousness where I wanted to maintain our core values,
Mhm.
but also shift and recognize that there's been an elevation. Like I've been
Mhm.
doing this for 10 years and been looking into all of these things, and how can we maintain the integrity of where we came from, our
Mhm.
roots,
Mhm.
but be more, just like connect more with regular people, mainstream people.
Mhm.
People are really suffering nowadays in terms of health, our public health in the US. And yet more than ever, especially post the pandemic, people are really looking at like, how do I get back that power I used to have? How can I empower myself to do
Mhm.
my own healing?
Mhm.
And what does that look like? And what are the tools I can use? And what are the lifestyle changes I can do? So
Mhm.
I think it's a beautiful time that we're in, where there's just so much explosion of awareness into, look, we have this unlimited universe inside of us. It's perfectly made, it's divinely wrought. And we just need to remember like what's good for us and what's not, and kind of pull out of the AI matrix kind of the programming and get back
Yeah.
to ourselves. So I actually, I know we're kind of getting towards the end of time. We have a little bit more time, but I wanted to go back to your story. There was one
Mhm.
other thing that really, I find truly inspirational is like
Mhm.
you went to this doctor and he's like giving you this diagnosis. He's presenting this truth of his perspective to you, and you look at him kind of square in the eye, and you're like, okay, I'm going to think on that. And then you looked inward, and
Mhm.
I love that because this unlimited universe that we all have within us, it's not just like autonomic, or unconscious. We can be conscious of all of this and realize that we already have everything we need. And
Mhm.
in your case, and particularly, the truth is within. All of these doctors and all of these these truth bearers, we it's important to take guidance at times and listen and pay attention to the reality around you, but ultimately only we know within on an individual basis what that truth is, what is going to be best for us. And that applies to health too. Like there's not a prescription for everybody, there's not a
No.
protocol for everybody. Even in sauna, like different people need different amounts
Totally.
at different times. Even the
Totally.
same person needs different things at
Mhm.
different times. Like how tell us a little bit more about how like that point at which like you're like, wow, I need to start thinking for myself here, and what was
Yeah.
that like, that sort of turning point?
I mean, I remember like it was yesterday, which is kind of crazy, and I just remember being like, that's not the road I'm going to go down. Like, if this thyroid med is not going to heal my thyroid, and also I'm like, well, then how's it going to get rid of my food sensitivities? Right? Like, I need to be able to eat without breaking out into hives. And so
Yeah.
when I left that office, I remember walking down that hallway with the fluorescent lights and the white tiled floors and just thinking, I know nothing. I'd never heard of Hashimoto's. I didn't know anything. And I just remember thinking, no, I'm going to figure a way out. There's going to be a way out. And I think it's interesting too, years down the road, I got back in contact with that doctor, sent him my labs, and was like, look at this. This is so exciting. And because I reversed it and I'm healthy. And he was very excited. And I thought it was interesting that he said, you know what, Carrie, one of the big things that I think helped you heal was that you were so determined that you were going to make it happen.
Hmm.
And that was so true. I remember when I left, it was like I saw a light at the end of the tunnel, but it was like a pinprick. I mean, it was so faint. But I thought I'm going to go down this road because this is not going to be my life. I will not let this be my life. My girls at the time were, gosh, how old were they? About 7 and 8. And I was like, I want to be a really great mom. I want to be active with them. And at the time, I was miserable. I was laying in bed all day or on the couch with ice packs on my face and miserable. And so just keeping one step at a time. It's one step at a time. And I tell my clients that all the time. And if any of y'all are listening and you're hurting right now and you're in a lot of pain, just baby step it. There's so much information on social media these days, and we can get really, really overwhelmed. But I think really like tune in to your body and be like, okay, what do I need to do first? And maybe that first step is you just need to start making more time for sleep. And maybe you're still eating a really terrible diet. Okay, fine. Start getting really good sleep. And then, or if you're like, I just don't go outside very much, and start going outside. And then once you've mastered that, then add in another thing and just do it baby step after baby step. Because when you do that, that adds up to a whole heck of a lot. And you can reach that light at the end of the tunnel, and all of a sudden it's like a big spotlight on you. So,
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, you definitely great change occurs, you
yes.
know, with many, many, many small steps.
Mm-hmm.
And the power of intention.
Mm-hmm.
You saw, even if it was a pinprick, you saw that light
Yep.
and you told yourself and you held on to that knowing that I'm gonna find the solution to this and you're definitely driven, obviously. We can all see that and
Just
for
a
the
little
works
bit.
you've made. But yeah, the power of intention. You don't have to necessarily know or can't quite remember or figure out exactly what's needed, what the solution is, but hold on to that truth that there is a
Mm-hmm.
solution and God, the universe will provide,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But
Mm-hmm.
he wants us to be determined,
Mm-hmm.
and the reality is our mirror.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not believing in ourselves, we're psyching ourselves out, that's what we're presented with,
Yeah.
around us.
Yeah.
So we're kind of getting close to time. I realize that we haven't talked very much at all about
I know.
thyroid, nervous system, autoimmune, as it
Right.
relates to sauna and like light therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're a fan of these topics. You're not dealing with just that, but as part of your own story.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so I know that you wrote a really nice article actually on this, maybe a couple years ago, on the benefits of
Red light for the thyroid.
a red light for the thyroid.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Mm-hmm.
let's just go through some of the
Mm-hmm.
bullet points, like what comes to mind.
I mean, research has shown, first of all, when I started using the red light, and then I started going on Google Scholar, I didn't realize how much research there is. There's so much research on red light.
Yeah.
And even with the thyroid. So if you're having any kind of thyroid issue, just type that in with, whatever that is with red light, and you'll be probably really surprised at what pops up. But it can help increase T4 production, which is great. It can help uh, lower antibodies, which is really cool. And I'd actually pulled this up because I wanted to say I had two different members in my thyroid course. One of them had said the only thing they changed was the red light. Their TPO antibodies went from above 900 to 220. which is amazing. Another one had their thyroglobulin antibodies went from 52 to 3, which is huge. So it can help with that. It can help calm our nervous system. And if it calms our nervous system, then that's going to help our endocrine system as well. And another thing, and Brian, you can probably talk more on this, but like it helps regenerate at the cellular level. And I feel like the cellular level, heal at the cellular level is such a hot topic these days. And I find it funny that it's this hot topic, you know, and then people think they have to do something really crazy in order to heal at the cellular level. And, you know, I think it's really important for people to even understand like the foods that we eat, like give our cells the instructions that they need, the nutrients that they need to work. And then our cells make up our tissues make up our organs, and our organs make up our systems, and that makes up our body. So it's really not that complicated.
No, yeah, yeah. I would just jump in and say, yeah, we're all, we're always looking for these complex solutions. Like the complex
Yes.
thing is better. It's not that complicated. The science and the microbiology, and the quantum physics can be quite complicated, but these solutions and how the body works, it's very simple. It
Yes.
needs what our ancestors got: grounding, sunlight, organic food, which was just food
Mhm.
before the petrochemical revolution,
Yeah.
and then yeah, understanding that ultimately even more fundamental than the cell is energy. It's
Hmm. Yeah.
electromagnetism. So the light therapy is the use of red and near infrared light to heal damaged cells
Hmm.
and reoptimize function of healthy cells. This
Yes.
works through the mitochondrial system. It's in every cell of the body. So we consume light from the sun, the photons, they're converted to electrons in the cells, and they promote healing, inflammation reduction, regeneration, nitric oxide release out of the cell. There's like epigenetic effects, growth. It's just like across the board. It's all these
Hmm.
amazing things like reduction in pain. And when we're talking about the nervous system, we're talking about regeneration and correction of function in the nervous system. So very powerful for the nervous system itself among all the cells of the body.
Hmm.
And then additionally, in the immune system. So very interesting. Sauna and light therapy both have this immune modulation effect. They make your immune system work better. They don't
Hmm.
hyperactivate it. They don't suppress it like it seems like every conventional pharmaceutical does
Right.
nowadays.
Yeah.
It's just it slowly and gently programs your immune system to work like it used to. So
Mhm.
it's I think it's a combination of the two things that's so powerful is reoptimizing function and repairing function with light, and then with heat also cleansing the thyroid, cleansing the body, and also
Yes.
with the sauna therapy there is a reoptimization effect through improvement of protein
Hmm.
function. Look,
Hmm.
this stuff is not specific. It helps every tissue of the body and pretty much every disease category you can think of out there. And
Hmm.
certainly, your some of your clients have reported that. You also see that in the literature, like normalization of thyroid metabolite levels.
Yeah. And if the tissues are changing, then obviously our cells are changing. So I think it's helpful to understand like this stuff isn't super complicated. And as we're finishing up, I will say too, if you do have thyroid disease, one thing to just be aware of, if you have hyperthyroidism, like if your T4 is really high, like your thyroid is producing a lot of T4, or you have Graves' disease, which is causing a lot of T4 production, go slow with the red light. Even go slow with castor oil packs. Go slow with
Yeah,
stuff
slow with
because
the
you don't want
sauna.
to overstimulate the tissues and cause more T4 production or more detoxification of the tissues, which could cause negative reactions. So
Wow, it's amazing
just be yourself.
advice. And this has been just, you are just a fount of wisdom. You have so much to provide, and you're so glowy.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, we're kind of out of time because they cut us off,
Totally get it.
after an hour. I'm sure we could talk more about this, but real quick, just tell everybody, thank you so much for being here. Where can we
Yeah,
find
thank
you?
you.
Both your
Yeah,
practice and your
I'm
website.
I'm deliciousllyorganic.net online. You can just Google Carrie Corum and you can find my practice online and stuff too. So, or DM me on Instagram and I can give you some links.
Oh yeah, and your last thing, your coupon code, you can use Carrie's coupon code on sauna.space.
Organic 10.
Organic, organic
Organic.
10.
That's what it is. Yep,
Organic or
organic 10 for
organic.
10%.
Yeah, organic, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for being on. Wow, we're gonna have
Thank
to have
you.
you on again. This is so
Now let's do it
fascinating.
again. This was good. We can dive in even
And
deeper.
your story is so inspirational. So thank you. We're really grateful for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope you have a good afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. You too. Much
Okay.
love. Take care, Carrie.
Okay, bye.
Bye.